You're watching Channel 4, the local station, home of News4Jax.com. Channel 4 News starts now.
Summer Thompson, a 7-year-old kidnapped and murdered. Her twin brother takes the stand and lashes out at his sister's murderer, Jarrett Harrell.
This is Summer's twin, by the way, Jarrett. You should look up here and address us since you murdered her.
Jarrett?
He won't look at you, just a coward.
We know you did this. We have evidence. She trusted you. But you had to do what you did. And look where it got you. And now you're going to jail.
26-year-old Jarrett Harrell is going to Florida State Prison for the rest of his life. Good evening, everyone.
Before Harrell was sentenced, members of Summer Thompson's family, one by one, told him about the unspeakable pain and heartache that he has caused with his crimes.
The only words Harrell spoke were, "Yes, sir," over and over, as he told a judge he is pleading guilty to kidnapping, raping, and killing the Orange Park schoolgirl. Now he will die in prison. Our reporters are covering every angle of Harrell's last day in court. We begin with Jennifer Waugh, who is joining us live from the Clay County Courthouse with new information. Jen.
I'll tell you, 835 days ago, a little girl did what thousands of others around our county and here in Clay County do. She walked home from school. What happened in the minutes after she got separated from her brother and her sister is something that has touched all of us. And of course, has broken the hearts of many. Specifically Dina Thompson and her entire family there today. You know, we have seen Dina this last 2.5 years in different sort of phases of this terrible grief that she's gone through. We have seen her emotional at the point where she can't even stand. We have seen her feisty, wanting to fight sexual predators, trying to change laws. Today, we saw a Dina that, I'll be honest, I have not seen a whole lot of in these last 2.5 years. A Dina who was angry and a Dina Thompson who was determined. She clearly did not want this man to see her cry.
I would never wish this on my worst enemy, but you, my monster, I would make a special exception for. No one should be subjected to inhumane treatment. But if one commits an unspeakable, inhumane act, one is not humane and therefore not entitled to humane treatment. The court has seen fit to hand out the humane portion of your punishment. Is it enough? I don't think so. Punishment should fit the crime. There is no need to detail your crimes here, since I don't want to entertain you with the pain that your selfish acts have put on so many people.
And you know, something that certainly upset so many sitting in court, hearing some of the details about, specifically about what happened to Summer, and really the fact that Dina even made the point, you do this to my daughter and then you throw her away like she's trash. Can you imagine? A little girl, a little 7-year-old. And at the end of Dina's statement today that she made to Jarrett Harrell, I know she said to the bailiff, she said to the judge, okay, now you can take this trash out of the courtroom. She was very angry and very upset, and who can blame her, certainly. Now, one of the things I think that we have all asked ourselves, those of us who have have children, and those of us who have grandchildren or nieces or nephews, we've always talked to our children about stranger danger as an example. And one of the things that I have always asked, and Dina has asked herself this last 2.5 years, is how did it happen? Why did Summer go to that house? How did Jarrett Harrell get her into the home? I had a very candid conversation with Sheriff Rick Beasler, and he's answering some of those questions for us. But first, I want to share with you a little bit more. Samuel Thompson, Summer's twin, came in during the news conference after the court proceedings. He wanted to talk. He wanted to speak to all of us. And it was very interesting because it was really the very first time that any of us had ever heard from him what happened that day when he and his sister got separated.
She was fighting with some kids, and somebody insulted her, so she got sad. She started running, and everybody was picking on her, so.
9-year-old Samuel Thompson recounting the last time he saw his sister alive.
I'm by Miss Sheila, which is the crossing guard. And I asked her, have you seen Summer? And she said no. And then we go home and tell our babysitter. And she calls Mom and says, your daughter hasn't been seen since the end of school.
Now for the first time we're learning, Summer went to this house looking for a white dog she had seen walking to and from school so many days, perhaps to cheer her up. Sheriff Rick Beasler now telling us Harrell saw her and told Summer the dog was inside, and that's how he got her into the house, where, according to newly released court documents, he undressed her on his bed and raped her, strangling the little girl and then putting her body in a large cooler, driving it to a dumpster behind a business where he worked in Fleming Island. Samuel has been shielded from those details, but offered this 9-year-old explanation as to how he thinks Jarrett Harrell tricked his twin sister.
And what I think he did is, I think he was trying to be nice at first, because after running so far, she could have got tired. Maybe he gave her some water or something.
And Samuel really pointing out that, you know, his sister was sweet. She was friendly. She was nice. She was talkative. And all of us, knowing through Dina and the stories that we've heard about Summer, we can see that happening. I mean, most 7-year-olds are trusting, aren't they? And that's very likely now, hearing that it was a dog that was used to trick her and get her into that home. It certainly just breaks your heart to think that that's how this happened. Now, a lot of questions, the news conference that came after the court hearing itself, a lot of questions directed to Angela Corey, the prosecutor, specifically, and also Sheriff Rick Beasler, about why not the death penalty. In fact, one person asked, you know, of all cases that warranted the death penalty, you would think it would be this one. Jim Pickett attended that news conference and has more on that part of this story. Jim?
Lots of people are wondering that, Jen. Why wouldn't they go for the death penalty in this case? Well, Angela Corey said that they had this plea deal, that they've been working on it for several weeks now. She said there was no way that they would accept this if take the death penalty off the table, unless there was no chance of parole, no chance of anything like that at all, that he would spend the rest of his life in jail. That's when she said she began to think about that, and that's why they accepted this deal. Here's what she said about that.
And in the final analysis, this was the right thing to do.
State Attorney Angela Corey says she has no doubt the evidence in this case and the confession from Jarrett Harrell were all strong enough that they could have won this case and the death penalty. But she says this plea deal is a better win for the family. It's final, with no chance of parole, no chance of appeal. She says it's over.
It is not perfect justice for Summer, but it is sure justice. Now, this beautiful family can try to start healing. They may never heal from the wounds that Jarrett Harrell inflicted on their family by killing Summer. But what they can do is put the focus back on Summer and Summer alone.
For the countless hours people put in on this case, from the search for the little girl, the discovery of her body at the landfill, and the police work to track down Jarrett Harrell as the killer and link him to the crime, the sheriff says this is a much better way to end this case, because the focus now is on Summer and not appeal after appeal.
More people die on death row of old age than they do from lethal injection. And what happens with the death penalty case is, starting today, and there are appeals ad infinitum from all sorts of organizations. And you know what happens is, for years and years that goes on, and the defendant is the focus of all of those appeals.
You know, Angela Corey said that if the family didn't want this, she would have gone right ahead and gone for the death penalty in this. But the family agreed to this, and that's important. Why Dana wasn't there at the news conference, she's going to speak later. Her mother and her father were there, and they said that they agree with the way this outcome, how it ended here. They're just glad that this is over. Jen?
Thank you, Jim. And that was certainly the point that was definitely echoed to us today, is that this is now over. No one ever has to think about Jarrett Harrell again, is what the sheriff specifically actually also pointed out later on in the news conference. Now, I want to take you to where this all started. to the neighborhood where Summer grew up, to the neighborhood where her mother still lives, as well as her brother and her brothers and her sisters, to a neighborhood that, if you'll remember, rallied around Dina Thompson and the family when Summer disappeared. They grabbed the flyers, they were out with their flashlights, they were searching to try to bring Summer home. A neighborhood that, I should point out also, has continued to rally around Dina Thompson. Emily Turner was there last night. She's there again, joining us now with more on what's happening in the neighborhood and how they're reacting to this news today. Emily.
Jen, it's so hard to convey without being here, but think about how many times you or I or someone at home has seen a story like this, that you've looked at it and you've thought, oh, that's horrible, but that would never happen in my neighborhood. Well, that's what the folks at this neighborhood thought. I mean, look at this. This isn't a place where you would necessarily think something like this would happen, and yet it did. And because of that, they're reacting so strongly.
Last summer.
Sorry.
Bless them her.
You'll understand Jeff Norris's reaction when you realize he's lived across the street from Summer her whole life. He watched her grow up, searched for her when she went missing, and mourned for her when she was found dead in a Georgia landfill. Today was the final step in the legal process of justice for Summer. But for Norris, it will never be over.
Knowing what Dina's been through, what this has put her through, what this has put the entire family through, I mean, it broke my heart for her, because it's not justice.
He's not alone in that sentiment. Most of the folks who live in this Orange Park neighborhood think Jarrett Harrell should have faced the death penalty. None of them wants the family to suffer any more than they already have. But people like Sandra Dodds say they did want to see Harrell suffer.
I don't think it was the right thing. I mean, he didn't give Summer a chance. She didn't have a choice.
So she's hanging purple and white ribbons to show her support for the family in this way. Purple because it's Summer's favorite color, and white, Dot has added, because Summer is an angel now.
I'm not the judge, I'm just a parent, and I can just imagine what she's feeling like.
And I think that's the sentiment a lot of these folks have, and that is why, if you'll look at Summer's home, there is a yard full of cars. Folks who came here, they're here to support Dina, to support Summer's siblings, to show their support for everything that's happened, and to say, hey, if you ever need anything, we're here for you. Reporting from Summer's neighborhood, Emily Turner, Channel 4, the local station. Jen?
Emily, thank you. And I know that a representative, in fact, Dina's attorney attended the news conference today. We kind of thought that Dina would be there. Clearly she was not, and that's because the attorney said she is just so upset. This has been so emotional for her that she just needs a couple of days to digest everything and try to kind of move forward, but that she does want to talk to everyone. Because remember, her mission in the last year, in fact, her mission has really been now to spreading the word about sexual predators, strengthening laws, doing everything she can to prevent any other children from becoming victims. And I do want to make sure that we do point out, obviously the sentence and Summer and her murder, it's just paramount in today's activities. But there was also another victim here, a little girl, a 3-year-old. In fact, it was Jarrett Harrell's niece, and he is going away. He received a life sentence specifically for molesting her. And I point that out because something that was pointed out by everyone today is that this was a terrible man who did terrible things to not just one, but 2 little girls. A terrible man who will now no longer ever be out, never ever be out in this community again, and he will spend the rest of his life and die in prison. Tom and Mary?
Jen, was there anybody in the courtroom for Jarrett Harrell? Was his mother, Annis Daly, there?
No, not a soul. No one. In fact, go ahead.
Did he ever look up and look at any of the Summer Thompson family on the stand at all?
I can't believe it, Tom. No.
Huh.
Never. Always looked down, sort of fidgeted, no sign of emotion whatsoever, made a point of never looking at the crowd, never looking at the cameras, the people who were sitting, never, ever looked up, never showed that he had any bit of remorse whatsoever or sympathy for anything that was said to him in the courtroom today. Nothing.
You know, and Jen, it was just so incredibly powerful to watch the family, and your heart just aches for them. you know, from little Samuel to the grandma and the grandpa. I mean, they said just incredible things. What was the grandfather said? I cannot forgive you for your actions. I am not that good a person. I mean,
it was so difficult to be there. I think that part of it is because I have worked closely with, you know, on this story for so long. You really can identify with everybody who's sitting there. I mean, Abby was there, of course, Samuel's older sister, so many family members there, and you know, they made a very important point. Two police officers actually, for very specific, sheriff's deputies said, look, there can be no outburst whatsoever. Anything, you're going to be asked to leave. And there were people who were really holding in the emotion and the tears and the sobbing, and it was very, very difficult considering everything that you heard and everyone watching Jarrett Harrell and him showing absolutely no remorse for what he did.
Janet, listening to Dina Thompson on the stand today, she clearly has had a very unwelcome, unwanted education on predators. When she told Harrell that her daughter and children are not other people's toys, and that when she said she did not want, in effect saying the trial might have caused him, in a sick, perverted way, some kind of pleasure. So she didn't want him to sit in the courtroom and be allowed to hear an account of what it is that he did. The difficult process that she must have gone through to reach this decision, because we all know without her agreement there would not have been a plea deal.
And you know, it's interesting because when we talked to her father at the news conference, I asked him, I said, how difficult was this? How involved was she in this decision with Angela Corey and Steve Nelson, the prosecutor? I mean, how did this? And he said, they called us in, we were in the office, and she just felt so uncomfortable considering how much one would imagine that she could hate another human being considering what he did, at having to make a life or death decision. He said it was something she just couldn't do. So she listened to the recommendations that the prosecutor made to her, and they followed it.
Jen, thank you. We'll check back in with you in a little bit.
Count on Channel 4 to bring you continuing coverage of Jarrett Harrell's guilty plea. We'll have more live reports from 5:30. At 5:30, we'll hear from Summer Thompson's grandparents. We'll take a look at the community's unwavering support for the Thompson family. And at 6 o'clock, we will hear more from Summer's twin, Samuel. Also, we have dedicated an entire section on news4jax.com to this case. Just click on the Justice for Summer banner at the top of the homepage. From Washington today came word of a bright spot in the U.S. economy.
More Americans getting jobs. Who the Labor Department says is hiring. A controversial decision reversed. The Susan G. Komen Foundation has decided it will continue providing funds to Planned Parenthood. We're getting local reaction from both groups.
It's your hour-by-hour forecast from the Weather Authority to help plan your day, only on Channel 4.
All right, folks, again, just talking about the details of what we've been seeing here, which has been a lot of clouds and not much more than that. The dry conditions have been out there, but tonight we actually have some sprinkles. Just a reminder of how little we've had, just 1/10 of an inch of rain last month. And again, as dry as January's get in the Jacksonville area. Now, this evening, if you have plans to be out and about, you might need a little bit of an umbrella out there because we have seen a few sprinkles, but those sprinkles, again, not all that much. Dry down south, they've had record dryness there, but the rains have been out in the western panhandle, and that's what we're going to watch for the next couple of days. It's the weekend. You don't want to hear about rain, but this time we would like to see a little bit around the area. Satellite and radar showing the gray skies around town. Temperatures have cooled a little bit. We actually were in the mid-70s at one point. Those temperatures coming down here pretty dramatically over the last 3 hours. Not like 20-degree drop, but it's enough that you'll need a jacket if you're going to be out and about here tonight, as again, the coolness of an easterly breeze will continue to give us the clouds, not just this evening, but right on through tomorrow morning. Early morning temperatures way above normal, but just on the edge if you're going to be out and about to have that jacket. 70 degrees by the lunch hour. Look, a little blue sky action in the afternoon hours will pop these temperatures. Daytime temperatures tomorrow will get right there near 80 degrees, especially just to the west of town. Will be in the mid-70s there. downtown to close to the beach. If you're going to be at the beach tomorrow, there will be some sunshine, but the daytime temperature is held down. And 8 on the Gone Gauge, some evening sprinkles. Have had a few emails, a couple of Facebook reminders that a few sprinkles have been out there. And again, tonight we'll be watching those sprinkles out there, but tomorrow, this is Saturday now, nice start. Warm temperatures, mid-70s in the afternoon hours. There still could be a possible shower, not just tomorrow, but right on through Sunday. Daytime temperatures, again, the big story, Tom and Mary will touch 80 and wait upon bigger rains next week.
Thank you, John. Never mind.
That's what a breast cancer foundation is now saying about its decision to stop funding breast exams by Planned Parenthood. What local leaders of both groups are saying. Next.
First, though, here's Rob in the Channel 4 newsroom with what's coming up at 5:30. Rob?
Well, Mary, here's what we're working on. A back courtroom as Jarrett Harrell pleads guilty to the murder of Summer Thompson. What Summer's grandparents said to the convicted killer. And the Republican presidential primary heads west. What the candidates are expecting tomorrow when voters head to the polls in Nevada. We'll take you to Las Vegas. And he's a service dog at your service. Why this miniature schnauzer is being credited with saving his owner's life after she took a bad fall. Join us for the details coming up in about 7 minutes.
The pink ribbon people make a U-turn.
The breast cancer advocacy group Susan G. Komen for the Cure has reversed its decision to cut funding to Planned Parenthood in the face of a huge outcry. Channel 4's Vicki Pierre has been following this controversy since it began, and she spoke today with local officials of both groups.
It became politics and was never intended to be, never wanted it to be politics.
Bruce Grobe with the North Florida Susan G. Komen Foundation says he's relieved. He says this week's been a roller coaster, with the Susan G. Komen Foundation announcing they would no longer fund breast screenings through Planned Parenthood because the group is under investigation. But the decision unleashed a massive firestorm of responses on social media and in the community, many threatening to pull support from the foundation. He says now they've changed its policy.
So I'm hoping that the fact that National did change its mind will bring those folks back.
I think we're all still a little shocked, but really, really pleased and honored that Komen would take the time.
Stacey Fox works with Planned Parenthood of North Florida. She says locally the group didn't get funded by Komen. She says she's surprised by how quickly the foundation reversed its decision, but she isn't surprised donors were so quick to raise $650,000 to fund the screenings.
So I think we're all still a little shocked, but really, really pleased and honored that Komen would take the time to listen to their supporters and rethink their decision.
Some say they aren't happy Komen reversed that decision.
And apparently Komen just backed down under that pressure. I mean, that's sad and regrettable, but that's who Planned Parenthood is.
But both Planned Parenthood and Komen say they want to move forward and continue to focus on helping their clients. Vicki Pierre, Channel 4, the local station.
243,000 people in the same happy boat.
They recently got jobs. How their hiring showed up in the new unemployment numbers next.
It may offer a little new hope to those who are trying to find a job right now. For the 5th month in a row, the nation's unemployment dropped. American employers added 243,000 jobs last month, about 100,000 more than analysts were predicting. The January jobless rate fell to 8.3% from 8.5% in December. So who has been doing the hiring? According to the Labor Department, private businesses have been adding jobs on a consistent basis since March of 2010. However, experts concede there is still a long way to go before the economy and unemployment recover from the 2008 financial crisis. We are hearing reports of a missing 6-year-old girl in Mandarin. Details as the news continues with Rob and Mary.